Born to Balenci.
Balenci. Balenci.
Okay.
Balenci.
Okay.
Balenci.
Okay.
Balenci.
Okay.
Forced to Adidas. Oh! What's good everyone on YouTube? It's me again, back with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at a pretty interesting Adidas shoe. And I say interesting because it's quite clear, at least to me, that it is very inspired or adjacent to a rather absurd Balenciaga shoe. And on that topic, this division of Adidas, this Adidas sportswear lifestyle division, a lot of the shoes seem to be very heavily inspired by a lot of things. Want some neon 95s? We got those. Like that colorway on that platform sneaker? Screw it, let's just put it on this shoe. Big fan of the track sneaker and the 3XL, but just want to put them together. We got that too. Love that GeoBaskets minimalist sole with the sawtooth. We've also got something like that as well. Then again, Rick Owens looked at the Converse and was like, I can do that. And to be fair, I left it off at that last example because, yes, while things can be very inspired or adjacent to other shoes, fashion itself is pretty iterative and building on top of ideas that have already existed. So I'm not going to give too much flack for Adidas making something super adjacent to something that already is out on the market. But enough rambling. Today we'll be looking at the Adidas XLG Metawave in the royal blue colorway. Wait a minute. Royal blue? Isn't that what's supposed to be on a Jordan? So taking a look at the box, I actually couldn't bring it back because it was way too big to fit in my luggage. But taking a look at the top, it's mostly done in black with the minimalist Adidas logo slapped on top of it. Then opening up the box, the shoes are individually wrapped with their own paper. And on the topic of opening the box, you can see how much excess space there was. You can fit an entire decorative goat in there. So don't know why they used such a big box when they clearly could have used something smaller. Then moving to the label, it reads XLG MTW. I guess everyone must have figured out it meant Metawave, or maybe just people have invented the name, I'm not too sure. These shoes retail for a price of around 1,199 RMB, which translates roughly to around 260 or something Australian dollars. I'll find the exact figure and put the conversion here. And comparing this shoe's price with other shoes of the same price, then finding out those shoes here in Australia, how much they cost, I expect this shoe to retail anywhere between 230 to 260 Australian dollars. It's not out in Australia yet, so that's my best guess. But with all that out of the way, let's look at the shoes. And here we are, the Adidas XLG MTW or Metawave in the royal blue colorway. So taking a look at this shoe, you can clearly see it is quite the chunky boy, and it has got a lot going on. Starting off with the upper, I guess the most prominent thing that sticks out to me is this metallic cage or plastic sort of overlay. And it's actually quite reminiscent of the new Harden Volume 9s that are coming out, especially in that silver colorway. And then underneath most of the overlays, we've just got a pretty standard mesh done in blue in certain sections and white in other sections like the toe box and the tongue. And speaking of the tongue, they've actually added a pretty funny feature. So instead of a regular just logo pressed on it, they've got the logo done in a lenticular print. So when you look at it from certain angles, it changes in size. And if you quickly move your head, it looks like it's rapidly sort of expanding and contracting. Then moving back to the heel of the shoe, we've got this very sculpted and pretty oversized heel counter done in this sort of milky clear plastic. So the upper itself is already pretty crazy in terms of its overlays and shape, but where it really gets out of hand is the midsole. So taking a look at the midsole, you can see it's super chunky and extra curvy, and it seems to be using Adidas's Light Strike. And the midsole is done in 3 colors. We've got 2 shades of white and a royal blue line that sort of runs through like a big swoosh. Like a Nike swoosh. They just keep stealing everything. Then moving to the outsole, it looks like one of those topographic maps where you figure out like elevations of mountains and stuff. But right in the middle of the forefoot and the heel, it curves inwards, and it sort of reminds me a little bit of the old Adidas Tubular series, though it's not as extreme. And one last thing to note, the outsole really wraps up high on the heel, leaving this pretty obvious wedge shelf shape at the back, which funnily enough makes it a very nice platform for your oversized pants to sit on. How nice. So that pretty much covers the main features of this particular shoe. It's a very chunky boy and yes, quite adjacent to something that's already out there. In terms of sizing, I found that these shoes fit a little bit tighter at true to size, so I ended up going up a half size and they fit me pretty well. So I would say, depending on how narrow your foot is, you could probably get away with true to size. But if you're on like a slightly wider side, I would recommend going up half a size. So I'm typically a US 9.5 in most of my sneakers. I bought these in a US 10 and they fit me pretty well. Now in terms of comfort, I guess one thing about really massive wedge soles is that even if it's pretty lackluster foam, it'll always be pretty comfortable. So this light strike to me isn't exactly as soft as something like Boost that Adidas has, but it's still pretty good, and in the amount that they've put on this shoe, it's a pretty comfortable ride. And the shaping of the midsole actually makes walking feel quite natural, like it's got a very nice curve to it. Then moving to the upper itself is nothing special in terms of any sort of performance feeling. It's an old school feeling shoe with lots of overlays and a few bits of mesh to give you some breathability. So overall, I'd say a surprisingly comfortable shoe that's not actually that heavy given how chunky it is. So I guess points for that given how thick and luscious the shoe. Not luscious. Ugh. But let's be honest, I don't think anything I'd say about comfort would influence anyone's decision about this shoe. And that's where I get into my opinions of this shoe. And personally for me, I do actually think it's a very interesting look. I know I've seen a lot of people online really quickly compare it to the Balenciaga 10XL. And I get where they're coming from with that one, but I still think it's different enough that people aren't really going to confuse the two. Now, people could probably still accuse you of the idea of wanting to be adjacent to the style, but to that I say, there's no problem with that. Like, clearly, if something is interesting enough for you to want to wear, but you just don't want to pay that premium, finding something in a much cheaper form is a good budget-friendly way of, achieving that style. And in all fairness, I do appreciate what Adidas Sportswear is trying to do. Personally, for me, I feel like recently, especially Adidas Originals, it's been getting really homogenized. Like the last time I went to an Adidas Original store, it was basically 3 shoes. Sambas, Gazelles, Spezials.
Adidas Spezial.
So I do appreciate the fact that Adidas is still keeping a division where they're getting a little more experimental, if somewhat derivative, with their designs. And this XLG MTW or Metawave just happens to be the one that really clicked with me. And I am pretty keen on, getting these out. At least right now. No one in Australia has them. At least I don't think so. And with that, we've come to the end of another video. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Adidas XLG MTW in the royal blue colorway. And out of the colorways that are out right now, which one would be your favorite? So clearly, I chose my favorite colorway. And yeah, no, this is just easily my favorite colorway, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you guys in another video.